What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And this one I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's going on with the economic calendar moving forward, what's going on with other factors involved in the markets, what you should be watching for as time progresses. But before I begin devil's information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am personally not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull and deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20 free stocks. And the offer ends very soon, in just about 4 days from now. Anyways, for the market, as you guys can see, SPY has broken the all-time high of 544. Upon breaking this, we're actually slowly approaching, once again, getting very close to that 550 area. And SPY is continuing to climb like crazy. But the question is, what's going to happen moving forward? Are we going to continue to squeeze to new all-time highs, or are we about to see a big rejection? This is going to depend on different factors, so I'll talk about all of that a little bit later into this video. I first want to talk about some data that's coming out and what the data is suggesting for tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be Tuesday, June 18th, 2024. Please note that about 15 minutes before the market opens, we have some very important data coming out. We have industrial production month over month. The manufacturing numbers are going to come out, so we're going to look at how things are looking in terms of the overall skills and such, and also what's happening with business inventories. So that's going to be very important for our economy. And this is going to cause some very, very high volatility. So expect some volatility right before market open. And also 30 minutes after open, we have more data coming out like Barkin and business inventories. So right before market open, 15 minutes before open, then 30 minutes after open, we have some data coming out. We'll see what this causes, at least for the markets moving forward. Then for the rest of the day tomorrow, we just have a bunch of Fed speakers. We have Barkin, we have Kugler, we have Logan. All of these people are going to be giving lots and lots of speeches, and what they say is going to affect the markets. So get ready for a bunch of Fed speakers tomorrow. We'll see what that ends up causing. Whatever they say could affect the markets if they're more hawkish, or they say anything about inflation. Be very, very patient, be open-minded, just to be safe. Now, the fear, the fear and greed index is currently at fear. Right now, fear is making up the majority of sentiment, and we'll have to see how the sense of shifting going forward. Now, for now, the reason why the market's more fearful is because of how high the market is. And there are a lot of people who are fearful that the market is going to see like a little rejection because of how high we're climbing. But momentum still remains bullish because greed is still once again over there. So momentum is bullish because once again, the market is just continuing to climb like crazy. And this is actually looking at where we were, for the past 12 months. Right now, we're still in a very, very greedy phase, and there's still a lot of buyers present. On top of all of this, the puts and call option positioning is currently at greed. As we're seeing more and more buyers continuing to step in, greed is making up the majority of the sentiment right now. And what's interesting is the fact that the puts and call option positioning is actually going up just a bit. We're actually seeing a little bit more put buying, just slightly more. It's nothing too crazy though. So there are still some people trying to short the markets, seeing how high it's going, and still leading to this big squeeze. Market volatility is also kind of neutral in the middle right now, not really shifting much. So there's not really much changing from that end. Now, for earnings for the week, I know a lot of people are interested in this. This is what the earnings calendar looks like. There's not really anything too significant that's coming out. The most important thing I'm seeing is maybe like CarMax for Friday, but besides that, everything is just very, very minor. So if you're interested in playing these, you could. Otherwise, it is what it is, right? Oh, and by the way, for Wednesday, don't forget it's going to be Juneteenth. So the stock market is going to be closed on Wednesday. We have a closed day in the middle of the week. So there will not be day trading on Wednesday in the U.S. markets. We just have another day tomorrow, and the market will be open until then. So what's happening with the charts? Let's now just break this down. If you actually look at these levels, we actually had a nice little flag breakout, at least on SPY, forming a technical level. And we're still looking quite bullish. We look like we might try to retest the high. Now, if we want to be bearish, and this is actually how I kind of view things, I broke down every level as a resistance, because the thing about SPY is that when we're at these high levels, new all-time highs like this, we tend to treat almost every dollar amount as resistance, and there tends to be like a very, very interesting price action around the levels. So if you actually look at, for instance, our 5-minute time frame, this is actually the epitome of how this was kind of working. We actually saw some interesting price action through these levels. So you can see right here, we had this resistance at 544. Once this broke, it took some time. It took like an hour for us to climb through each of the next levels. So that's why I like to pay attention to every single one of them. But basically, if SPY loses 546, if we end up losing that support tomorrow, I'm going to be looking for 544. So that's why I'm going to mark this yellow. And if we end up breaking this yellow line up here, 548.5, if we break this, the other yellow line above, we're going to be going to about 515, my personal opinion. So I'll be watching to see what we end up doing. I would say 548.5, that's the high of the day. That's actually going to be a tough resistance. So we will see how things develop from here, but just know that right now, the buyers still have a big edge. So if we were to break down, if we end up losing 547, watch 546. If that breaks, we're going down to 544. And if we end up breaking past 548.5, we're going to be going up to 550. Now, the chart is still showing signs of a lot of buyers. We're actually still getting bought up in the after hours, even though SPY kind of dipped during, I would say, close to the end of the day. It just dipped a little bit. We're still bullish overall. So I do think there's going to be another attempt to push higher again tomorrow. We could either retest 548 or this high, and all depends on the high. Do we break the high to make new all-time highs, or do we get a rejection? I'll be watching for that. But tomorrow, expect a little pop again. We might try to push to this high again, and we'll see if we get a rejection or not, if we could break the high or not. So let's look for a little bit more upside. The bulls still have a lot of potential to continue the squeeze, but we'll see if the all-time high breaks or not. I think we're going to likely retest, and we could get a rejection, maybe, maybe not. It depends. For Nvda, we are just trading sideways. But what's interesting is that it's still holding up well. It's not like Nvidia is weak or anything like that. It's holding up well. It's just that we're in a sideways phase because resistance is still kind of tough. So make sure you watch 131.5 as resistance, followed by 132.6. And we have support at 130. I think Nvidia is going to most likely kind of shuffle a bit. Look for a little bounce tomorrow. Might try to rebound, but if it doesn't break the high at 134, it might establish a lower high before it continues a little bit lower. So I think we might try to rebound a bit, retest 132.6, the previous resistance right over here, and we'll see if we reject or not. But look for a little retest of that tomorrow for some sideways price action as the most probable possibility. For Bitcoin has actually bounced a bit. We have to try to hold 66,374. If we hold above that, look for a push for 67,000. If we lose this, we're going to be dipping back down. As of right now, it looks to me like it's going to try to actually push up there for 67,000. So I do see some more upside potential in Bitcoin. So we'll see if that ends up being the case, but look for more potential upside. For Tesla, we are looking very bullish overall because when you zoom out, we have a nice double bottom like structure, and this is from like a big George W. However, when you look at this symmetrical structure, one could argue that we kind of like dipped a little bit first before we ended up pushing. So this could kind of develop like into like a cup and handle before we continue. And also we could dip a little bit to cool off some indicators. I wouldn't be surprised if Tesla actually retests like 185 tomorrow or something like that. Consolidates for a bit, then it eventually tries to break out higher towards the 200 target. So I think, yes, especially when you look at this inverse head and shoulders, Tesla is going to be going to 200 very soon. It's going to try to go all the way up to these imbalances. I see a big rally coming to Tesla, but we might cool off a bit tomorrow first before the rally ends up coming. So look for a retest of our key EMAs and also these key levels. So I wouldn't be surprised if we actually retest 185. Maybe we go a little lower and then we just consolidate for a bit before it tries to continue higher. So I expect more upside to come, but we might get a little dip first. For the QQQ, it looks very bullish. There's no sign of it breaking down. If we end up losing this key support around 484, I'm going to actually redraw this for you guys. If we end up losing 484, we're going to be dipping all the way down to 482.5, followed by 481. If we break past 486, we're going to be pushing all the way up to 487.5, eventually much higher levels. In my personal opinion, the 4-hour is looking more bullish, and we're seeing a lot of buyers stepping in, so I favor upside. And I think there's a good chance that this is going to try to go a little higher. We could dip a bit first to about 484 and then try to bounce, but as of right now, it looks like it might try to revisit the high and continue higher for 487. I will change my mind if we end up losing 484. Then it's going to be dipping back down to 482 most likely. So watch and see how it reacts to 484. As of right now, the chart is looking more bullish, and the bulls have the edge. Another reason why I say that is because of Aapl. So Aapl has resistance around 217.64 around that area. If we break through this, I'll be looking for 220. We have support currently at 216. If we end up losing that, we could be dipping back down to 214. As of right now, we're still looking pretty strong on Aapl. If we can manage to break above this 217.6 area and hold above it, I'll be looking for a very, very nice looking push all the way up towards 220. And it looks a little bit more probable, in my opinion, for the 4-hour time frame. So I favor upside. That's looking a bit more likely. So I'll be watching to see if that ends up being the case. For NEO has a nice looking bullish divergence that's developing. If we break past 4.48, we're going to be looking for a push all the way up to about 4.7. If we fail to do so, we're going to be looking for rejection. But as of right now, with this bullish divergence, there's a very, very good chance we go up to about 4.7. So that looks a bit more probable to me. So overall, I am seeing potential NEO to actually try to bounce if we break past our 20 EMA. So I'll be watching to see if that ends up being the case. Anyways, that's it for the main tickers I typically talk about, guys. Now I'm just going to talk about the rest of them very, very briefly, and then I'll conclude the video from there. So Palantir is looking pretty good right now. We got a nice little breakout. I was talking about how we're forming kind of like a cup, and we were talking about a double bottom like structure, so it's looking pretty bullish right now. We have resistance currently at where we are at this 25 zone. If we manage to break through this, I'll be looking for a push all the way up towards 25.5. And if that breaks, we're going up to this high all the way back up to 26.2. So it looks bullish. Since we hit 25, there could be a little retracement coming to the 24s for a bullish continuation to 26 as the most likely possibility. Supermicro is also trying to rebound. You guys can see it's trying to uptrend right over here. If we lose 8.8 though, look for a little dip all the way back down to about I'm sorry, not 8.8, 880. If we end up losing that, I'll be looking for 860 below that. And if we break out above 900, we're going to be looking for a push all the way up towards, in my opinion, 920. So what do I think is more likely? Do we break 900 to go to 920, or do we end up losing 880 to go down to 860? My guts tells me it's going to go higher. Looking at the 4 hour, it's actually holding up very, very well. So there's a very, very good chance that we are going to likely try to push a bit higher. I think that we're going to likely see more upside as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if we actually come down to fill this, retest this resistance at 880. Then we try to bounce and start pushing all the way up towards this 902 plus area, then eventually higher levels. So it does look like Supermicro is going to try to bounce, looking at some more potential. For Rivian, it's been dipping quite a bit. We're actually currently above our 200 EMA. If we lose 10.89, look for a dip all the way down to the 10.6 area. If we hold above this, we're going to be looking for 11.2. My gut is telling me it's going to try to break out a little higher and start pushing for the imbalances above. So I'm going to be looking for a little bounce, and that looks a bit more probable in my personal opinion. For SoFi is also looking very, very interesting in my opinion. It's been dipping quite a bit, kind of like as we predicted. I want to see if we can try to rebound to about 6.6, though. That would be actually very healthy. It's still looking very weak technically, but we could get a temporary rebound before it continues lower. So watch and see if we can get up to 6.6 before anything else. That's going to be very important for how we end up moving. I'll be watching for that. So we'll see how things end up going. Moving forward, for other tickers out there, I just want to call out the IWM Russell 2000. This right here is on the 4 hour time frame, is actually holding up relatively well. If we break past 200, we're going to be looking for 202. If we reject, we're going to be dipping back down to about 199. So in my personal opinion, I think that there's a good chance that we're going to continue and try to rebound. So look for about 202 to be retested on the 4 hour time frame. Is a very, very tight level. So look for a bounce on the IWM. 202 looks very probable as long as we're above 200. And that's looking pretty good to me. AMD kind of in the middle, guys. We actually dipped a bit before coming back up. So it's trying to hold 158. You guys can see it's a key level. If we lose 158, if we get a close below that, expect even more downside. We're going to be coming back down to these lower levels like 154 all over again. If we end up holding above 158 tomorrow, we're easily going back up to about 162 if we could hold above 158 or even continue to push. So I'll be watching that very, very carefully. For ARM, we're on a very, very nice looking uptrend for now, but we're starting to trade sideways in this resistance area. So ARM has resistance around 162.5, and we have support all the way down here around 154. We've been stuck going back and forth and back and forth. There is a chance that we could actually try to push a bit before coming back down. So I'm going to be watching ARM very carefully, but overall it's still holding up well. For Coinbase, in my personal opinion, has a nice double top-like structure, and we are starting to decline just a little bit. We're retesting our 20 EMA, this 245 area. If this rejects, we'll be looking for a move back down towards 238. If we break through this, we'll be going all the way back up towards 250. I'll be watching to see how things end up moving. We have a nice double top-like structure, so we'll be very patient with this. But because of this potential downtrend that could be forming, we could start to sink even lower. So look for a little bit of a rebound to about 248 before we try to reject, and we'll see how things go from here. But I think that Coinbase has potential to retest this resistance. Look for a little rebound. We could retest 248, then reject back down lower. It's still on a bit of a downtrend, so watch that very carefully. Now, for Amzn, we're showing some life right now in the 4 hour time frame. We need to try to hold above 184. If we hold this, I see us going all the way up towards 186. If we fail to hold this, we're going to be dipping back down to 182. I favor the upside more for 186 plus. It's looking more bullish in my personal opinion. Meta, it's holding up relatively well. If we keep going, we're going to be looking for a retest of 510. If we end up losing 502, I'll be looking for 504, like for the 490, like 5 area, this 50 EMA. So this looks more bullish to me. I think that 510 plus is coming. That looks more probable. For Microsoft, This is also looking very, very bullish. I think it wants to go all the way up to about 450. So tomorrow, there could likely be a lot more upside coming. So we'll be watching to see how it ends up reacting to this resistance. So far, so good from Microsoft. For Google's still holding up relatively well. We're going to be looking for a test all the way up here towards this 180 area. If we end up rejecting here, we'll be looking for support at 178. If that fails us, we'll be dipping even lower down towards like 175. So I favor the upside more towards 180 is a strong possibility. I'll be watching to see how things end up developing there. But so far, it's looking a bit more bullish. For GME, we're just kind of trading within a range. We have 25 as key support. If we lose that, we'll be looking at 22. And we have resistance all the way up here towards 30. Kind of stuck within this range, not really doing much, so I'll have to give that some time. For AMC, in my personal opinion, is kind of trading sideways within this range. We basically have support around this 4.5 area. We have resistance around 5.5. We're kind of going back and forth and back and forth. We're going to likely continue to do so as time goes on, at least for now. For DJT, we're also on a bit of a downtrend right here. We've lost support at 38. So now we're going to likely continue to fall. I do see more downside coming towards 32 and eventually 30 flat. So we'll have to wait and see how things end up going. For the VIX, looking at the way that the VIX is looking, I would say that we have this resistance around this 12.83 level. If we break through this, we're going to be looking for a nice little rebound. If we end up failing to do so, we're going to be declining back down towards 12.5. The VIX is kind of indecisive right now. It's kind of like flat right now, but it's not really affecting the market as much. So I'll be watching this gap down here. Will the VIX rebound first and then come down to fill the gap, or will it just drop? It's very sideways, so we have to give this some time just to see what it's going to do. That's going to be important for how the market ends up moving. For the 10-year Treasury yield, we're trying to rebound a bit. I'm going to be looking for a test of our 20 EMA. We also have a gap to fill below. This is going to be heavily dictated by what the Fed says tomorrow, so I'll be listening to what the Fed speakers have to say. And the dollar has come down a bit as the market's pushing. We'll have to see if we lose 105.3. If we lose that, we're dipping down to 105 flat, which could be a bullish signal for the markets. So we'll just have to give this the time it needs. But with that being said, guys, I want to thank you all so much for listening. Please have an absolutely incredible rest of the day. I will most definitely see you guys very soon on the next video. So take care, guys. And until I see you guys before the market opens, have a great rest of the day. Thanks again, guys, and peace out.